Hello friends, welcome back to Learn with Lakshman. In this video, we'll see how the practical criticism is applied to a text. If you've not seen the theory of practical criticism, I'd request you to go back to the series of 5 videos on practical criticism. This is the 6th and last video. This video is being prepared on the request of Kiran. Some other viewers also requested me to prepare a video on the application of practical criticism. As a result, I am trying it here. We're gonna apply practical criticism to the poem Flying Crooked, written by Robert Graves. I've selected this poem because it is comparatively smaller in length. Let's have a look at the text of the poem first. The poem reads, "The butterfly, a cabbage white, his honest idiocy of flight, will never now, it is too late, master the art of flying straight. Yet has, who knows so well as I, a just sense of how not to fly. He lurches here and here by guess, and God and hope and hopelessness. Even the acrobatic swift has not his flying crooked gift." Now, let's begin to talk about the peculiarities of the poem. Let's start with the title of the poem. The title of the poem, Flying Crooked, suggests that it is a poem about an animal's flight. It describes the distinct quality of the flight of the butterfly. As it is a poem about butterfly, it can be categorized as an animal poem. Flying Crooked sounds a strange title because it juxtaposes a positive idea with a negative one. The word flying is suggestive of positivity and the word crooked is suggestive of negativity. Thus, the title suggests that the flight of the butterfly is not common like other flying birds or animals. Speaking about the syntax, diction and interpretation of the poem, the very first line of the poem is syntactically distinct. There is a noun phrase, a cabbage white, in opposition to the noun phrase, the butterfly, describing the distinct color of the animal. By describing the butterfly as a cabbage white, the poet directs the attention to the fact that it is deceased, though not physically. The second line, his honest idiocy of flight, is a parenthesis and does not form the part of the main sentence. However, it is connected to the butterfly and tells about the flight of the butterfly. There are again two contradictory words used together. The word honest is positive connotation and the word idiocy is negative connotation. Though the poet thinks that the flight of the butterfly is idiot, like as it is not swift or straight, he appreciates the honesty of the idiocy. Poet deliberately uses the pronoun his, which personifies the animal. This can also mean that the poet is talking about human beings, especially men. The third line, will never now, it is too late, is two common expressions separated by a comma. Here, the second expression, it is too late, is the reason for what is communicated in the first expression, will never now. Poet deliberately avoids using an adverb of reason and chooses to put a comma at its place. This is done to achieve the intended rhythm by using regularly patterned flow of sounds. It is connected to the earlier lines and also to the fourth line, master the art of flying straight, which completes the sense of the sentence. Simple and the shortest sentence formed by the first quatrain would be, the butterfly will never master the art of flying straight, or the honest idiocy of flight of the butterfly will never master the art of flying straight. The poet emphasizes the fact that butterfly cannot ever master the art of flying straight. The quatrain contains first 4 lines and gives a complete meaning. But the poet does not end the sentence here. He uses comma instead of full stop and continues, yet has, who knows so well as I, a just sense of how not to fly. Before we begin to talk about the next stanza, let us get back to the first quatrain and see what are the peculiarities there. See, in the first line, the butterfly is separated by cabbage white, which means that butterfly is cabbage white. And the second line is put in the brackets, that means it is a parenthetical line. His honest idiocy of flight. The butterfly and his honest idiocy of flight, both these together form the subject of the sentence, and poet further says that his honest idiocy of flight Because of the honesty days of flight of butterfly, butterfly will never, because why never? Because it is too late for the butterfly. What it will never? It will never master the art of flying straight. Now, these are the four lines and gives us a complete meaning. But the problem is, poet has chosen to put a comma here instead of the full stop. Thus, poet intends to continue the sentence, though its meaning is complete here, but poet intends to add something to it. And what he adds? He adds that though the butterfly cannot master the art of flying straight, it has a just sense of how not to fly. Let's move on to the fifth line. It seems that the fifth line, though begins anew, had some connection to the earlier quatrain. The use of word yet suggests that poet is not blaming the butterfly for its inability to fly straight. He uses a rhetorical question, who knows so well as I, in parenthesis, and becomes the part of the poem. He wants to say that he knows how not to fly as the butterfly do better than anybody else. He calls his sense of knowing how not to fly as just. Here, it becomes evident that the poet is comparing butterfly with himself. Both of them have the just sense of how not to fly. This couplet strongly hints towards the fact that the poet is speaking metaphorically. Butterfly does not only mean butterfly, but it is a metaphor for human beings. It is difficult to find the exact answer to the question how the poet knows how not to fly better than others. This can be understood by understanding poet's biography or state of mind. Practical criticism avoids to indulge in such activities like biography, mental state, and other theories. There is a possibility that poet is quite unconventional in his behavior and compares it to the undesirable flight of butterfly, but he doesn't think that it is unjust to be unconventional or different. In the seventh line, the poet gives an account of the movements of the butterfly. This line is semantically connected to the earlier couplet wherein poet says that he knows how not to fly better than others. So does the butterfly. As he knows it, he gets the authority to speak about flying movements of the butterfly. Again, poet uses the pronoun he to refer to butterfly. Instead of using the regular expression here and there, poet uses the expression here and here, which sounds quite odd. This is done with a specific purpose to indicate that no change is possible now. Butterfly will never master the art of flying straight. The word lurches shows that the movements are not organized and are quite uneven. Let's have a look at the following line. The following line gives a sense of sentence completion. It completes the couplet. The poet chooses to put the full stop here. The line, and God and hope and hopelessness achieves the desired sound effect and connects to the lurching of the butterfly merely by guess. It is not an acquired skill. There is divinity in it. The word God refers to the role of divinity in the flight of butterfly. There is both hope and hopelessness in the flight of butterfly. It gives a powerful sense in the context of the entire poem. It also adds to the fact that there is similarity between what poet speaks about and the style of writing he uses. And God and hope and hopelessness, the hope and hopelessness are used together, suggesting that things can have coexistence. The indication is that the variety in the world should be respected. There is a full stop after eighth line, that is the God and hope and hopelessness. Now that means the sentence that began with the butterfly ends on the God and hope and hopelessness. There is the full stop. However, it can be seen that there is a complete sense in the first four lines and there is a complete sense in the second four lines, but the second four lines are connected to the first four lines. Therefore, it becomes an octave instead of two quatrains. We can call it two quatrains together as an octave in a single sentence. Now, let us have a look at the final couplet. It stands separate as well as it is connected to the earlier part of the poem. The final couplet is epitome and gives the exact idea about the poet's thoughts on the crooked flight of the butterfly. He compares it with the acrobatic swift, which is in the absolute contrast with the awkward flight of the butterfly, and says that the crooked flying of butterfly is a gift. It has its own charm and importance. Although this gift is termed as crooked, this is not even with the acrobatic swift. The lines remind the reader of the closing part of John Keats's poem Ode to Autumn, wherein he says, "Where are the songs of spring? Think not of them, thou hast thy music too." There are plenty of uncommon expressions and collocations in this poem. For example, honest idiocy is a surprising expression. A just sense of how not to fly comes as a revolution against a just sense of how to fly. Lurching here and here sounds uncommon because the commonly used one is lurching here and there. The words hope and hopelessness are used in the same context. The butterfly lurches in hope and hopelessness. There can be another interpretation of the poem as mentioned earlier. It begins in third person, the butterfly, but the first person I, in who knows so well as I, enters in the fifth line. Fifth line is the first line of the second quatrain. If we consider the structure of the poem as two quatrains and a couplet, the couplet stands separated and two quatrains speak for themselves. It indicates that the poet has placed himself in place of butterfly. The word flight may mean poet's flight of imagination, which he compares with that of the butterfly. The close reading of the poem shows that the word crooked does not have a negative connotation. It merely means different from others. Others might have mastered the skill of writing their poems, but for poet it is a gift. There is another possible reading of the poem. The flight of the butterfly can be equated with the flight of humanity. The butterfly with honest idiocy is an inherently idiotic person who accepts the defeat and his fate of crookedness. He does this because of his failure to succeed, a just sense how not to fly. He is directionless and moves uncertainly, for he is not like others. The final couplet refers to the skillful people, acrobatic swift, but suggests that the gift that the idiotic person has is not with the skilled people too. Let's try to understand imagery and symbols in the poem. Image is a picture created out of words. The poet creates the pictures out of words of butterfly by calling it cabbage white. He lurches here and here also creates the image of the flight of the butterfly. The butterfly is not as strong as other birds and its flight is not well directed. It becomes the symbol of confusion and aimlessness. Butterfly is weak and unskilled, symbolizing simple-minded people in the world. Lurching of butterfly is symbol of people trying to adjust themselves with the world. The acrobatic swift symbolizes skill acquired by the majority of the people in the world. The crooked gift of butterfly is the gift that many people lack. What type of poem it is? Can you guess what type of poem it is? Flying Crooked is a short lyric poem. Its length is shorter than the lyric proper. Therefore, you cannot call it lyric proper. It is even shorter than the sonnet, which is 14 lines. Flying Crooked is written in 10 lines. Though it is not a sonnet, it goes very close to the sonnet. It lacks 4 lines that a sonnet has. However, there is no doubt that it is a lyric. Let's try to understand stanza forms and rhyme scheme in the Flying Crooked. If we look at the poem, there are total 10 lines in this poem. If we look at it in terms of space between the lines, it seems a poem of only one stanza of 10 lines. However, the poem can be classified into an octave containing 2 quatrains and a concluding couplet. The concluding couplet should be read differently because it is essentially the final remark on the poem by the poet. The first quatrain communicates an idea that butterfly would not be able to learn the art of flying straight. In the second quatrain, poet seems to build an idea that there is something about the ability of butterfly. Poet specifies this connection with a butterfly in the same stanza. The rhyme scheme of the poem is A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, E. That means each first line in the pair of lines rhymes with the second one. Thus, the poem is written in rhyming couplets. Most of these are open couplets. Only the concluding couplet is a closed couplet. 8th and 10th lines are end-stopped. Other lines are run-on lines. The 4th line can also be called the end-stopped, but the poet deliberately chooses to use a comma instead of a full stop and makes it a run-on instead of end-stopped. Speaking about the scansion and the prosody, this poem is written in iambic tetrameter. When unstressed syllable in a line of a poem is followed by a stressed syllable to form a foot, it is called iamb. This poem follows the pattern, namely iamb. The number of foot in the line is called meter. There are 4 meters in each line of this poem. Therefore, this meter is called iambic tetrameter. Most of the lines are written in iambic tetrameter. There are a few exceptions, like the 4th line, in which the first foot is not iambic but trochaic. The first syllable in this foot is stressed and is followed by an unstressed one. Similarly, in the 5th line, the 2nd and the 3rd foot are not iambic but trochaic. Let's try to understand the metrical pattern in the poem with the help of the table. Look at the metrical pattern in the first line. There are 4 meters. You can see them on your screen. The first meter is the but. The second is to fly. Third is a cab. Fourth is bidge white. In the second line, first meter is he's on. Second is e. Third is doc. Fourth is of flight. In the third line, first meter is will ne. Second is were now. Third is it is. And fourth is too late. And in the fourth line, the first meter is master. The second is the art. Third is of fly. And fourth is ing straight. Highlighted syllables of words are accented syllables, and non-highlighted words and syllables are unaccented syllables. Similarly, the syllables under which U is written are unstressed, and the syllables under which yes is written are stressed syllables. You can see it in the table. In each line of this table, you can see 4 meters, and each meter contains 2 syllables. The first syllable is unaccented and the second syllable is accented. That is, first is unstressed and second is stressed. When first syllable is unstressed and second syllable is stressed, it is called iamb. And as there are 4 iambs in this line, it is called iambic tetrameter. Let's try to read this poem now. The butterfly, a cabbage white, is honest doc of flight, will never now, it is too late, master the art of flying straight. Let's read it little faster now. The butterfly, a cabbage white, is honest idiocy of flight, will never now, it is too late, master the art of flying straight. Once more. The butterfly, a cabbage white, is honest idiocy of flight, will never now, it is too late, master the art of flying straight. See the 4th line, in which the first syllable is accented and second is unaccented. This is called the irregularity of the meter. You can see the irregularity here too. Now let's move on to the next 4 lines and try to understand the meter in it. The table and everything is same as it was earlier. Now you just have to understand the syllables. Look at the first line. Yet has who knows so well as I a just sense of how not to fly. He lurches here and here by guess in God and hope and hopelessness. Let's try to say it rhythmically. Yet has who knows so well as I just a sense of how not to fly. He lurches here and here by guess and God and hope and hopelessness. Look at the second foot in the second line. It is sense of. It is not iambic, it is trochaic. Similarly, the third foot in the second line. It is also not iambic, it is trochaic. How not? All other foot are iambic, that is one unstressed syllable followed by a stressed one. Now let's have a look at the concluding couplet. See, as usual, there are 4 meters and each meter is iambic. Look at the 7th line. Even the acrobatic swift has not his flying crooked gift. Shall we say it a little louder and rhythmically? Even the acrobatic swift has not his flying crooked gift. I hope you have understood the metrical patterns iamb and tetrameter and iambic tetrameter together. Now let's once again try to read the whole poem in the rhythmic pattern. See, with this rhythm, the butterfly, cabbage white His honest idiocy of flight will never now, it is too late, master the art of flying straight. Yet as who knows so well as I, adjusts a sense of how not to fly. He lurches here and here by guess and God and hope and hopelessness. Even the acrobatic swift has not his flying crooked gift. Now let's sing it with the original meter that we used earlier. The butterfly a cabbage white, his honest idiocy of flight will never now, it is too late, master the art of flying straight. Yet as who knows so well as I, just a sense of how not to fly, he lurches here and here by guess and God and hope and hopelessness. Even the acrobatic swift has not his flying crooked gift. I hope you have understood how to appreciate a poem by using practical criticism. And I also hope that you have liked this video. If you have liked this video, then hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and please don't forget to subscribe if you have not subscribed for this channel yet. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.